This is Brunel's final great ship, the greatest of them all, the steamship Great Eastern, and it was finally launched on the 30th of January 1858, and Brunel himself dying just a few months after that launch, just a short period before that launch. But it was an enormous ship. It was 693 feet in overall length, with a beam of 83 feet and on the main hull, but over the paddle boxes it's 118 feet and a depth of 58 feet, and it had gross tonnage of about just under 19,000 tons, but actually with full displacement that rose to about 27,500 tons, and it could carry 4,000 passengers at a speed of 14 knots. Absolutely extraordinary. And Brunel designed it for the Australia run, the Far Eastern Australia run from Britain, and of course as soon as it was finished, it was found that there wasn't enough business. It could attract enough business for that run of immigrants and people going to I think it was the gold rush and everything then. So of course, naturally enough, the company that eventually owned it, once it was fitted out and finished, put it onto the route which Brunel expressly said it shouldn't be used for, and that was the transatlantic route. So therefore it was a commercial failure, and it stumbled on for a number of years in this role, never fulfilling the potential for which it had been built. And eventually it had a life as a cable layer, laying the first successful transatlantic cable, and in fact two of them, and many more after that. This is where I am for beginning to make my model, low detail model of the Great Eastern. And what I've done so far is I've brought in plans which I was able to get. Actually they're tracings of plans. I traced the plans to try and give myself a better, clearer image, because the only plans I could find were really low res. And the hull is complete in its first form, and you'll see it's quite translucent there, because what I did was, in order to, and this might be a tip for anybody making such models, you get these, this is this diagram down the end here. This shows the profile across the ship at different points, and you can see, if I zoom in a bit more, you can see, let's just drag this over, you can see it's actually lettered, and this is from the original plan, and it shows me that the profile at I, for example, is near the bow, and if we come down here on the one that's laid up, there's the profile there, I. So let's zoom in a little bit more, and it's repeated twice because actually I've got the actual size of the ship is on one plane, and I've continued that. I've just repeated that plane and dragged it to reveal those lettering, because what I wanted was the width of the ship to be exactly the same as the plane. This is the way I build things. And here the same is true with the elevation. So I've actually got 1, 2, 3. I think let's just have a look in wireframe. Yeah, I've got 3 planes there. They're all based on the same texture, and the texture of course is this plan. And you can see here that what I'm doing now is I'm moving on to begin to block in the position of the paddle boxes, and there are quite a few discrepancies between the plan that I have, or the plans that I have, and the photographs of the actual ship that do exist. There's not many of them, but what they do is they show some variation to these plans, so you can't rely on them, and it's best to see the original rather than just rely on these drawings, which may well have changed. But anyway, you can see I'm going to be able to get the basic makeup of the ship, the basic look of the ship. It won't bear very close examination. I'm going to have to cut quite a few corners, and there's a lot of detail actually on the deck, and a lot of detail that's missing from this plan, such as some of the deck housing and the bridge and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to have to work that up from photographs. But essentially it will look pretty much, I think, like Great Eastern. I'm going to make it with sails set, and and also without sails as a static scenery model, but the one with sails set of course will be set as a locomotive to run on invisible track, and the bogie will be, the two bogies will be, the two paddle wheels will be one that's centered there, and the other will be the propeller at the back. And she could of course turn on a sixpence, so if anybody ever out there ever even remembers what a sixpence was, a small coin, and so it'll turn on its own axis there. Just have a look here at the other views of her. You can see the profile there. Here I've still got to bring in the section for the, if we smooth and highlight and bring in the texture correction there. So here I've just made a very basic propeller. I haven't tried to get all the angles right, it's just a twisty bit, and because most of that's going to be underwater, and so in the unlikely event that you want to show her beached and ready to be cut up in Liverpool, then you won't be seeing the propeller anyway. What else is there? Well, it's a long job. I've only just started it, but I thought you might like to see what I'm doing. And so it's almost 700 feet end to end, and over 100 foot wide at the paddle boxes, 113 feet wide. I've got no idea when I'm going to finish this. I'm not going to post up a whole load of video showing me doing every little bit at all, but I will post up a video showing the finished model actually on the track, on the invisible track at sea in trains. So that's going to be coming, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. This is what day today is, the 4th of February 2019, so that gives you an idea of where I am. I had thought I was going to do some GWR freight vehicles, but this one just caught my imagination, and I decided to have a bash. If this works okay, then I'm going to get a book with good plans of SS Great Britain, and which is the one preserved in Bristol, and I'll perhaps make that as well. But I do have lots of ships plans now to work from, but I must get back to making some trains. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, just a short one to let you know what's coming, and when it's available I'll announce it straight away, of course. So if you enjoyed this video, or you're eagerly anticipating the Great Eastern, please do subscribe, please do leave a comment, and give me a thumbs up. Oh, I should say, by the way in which I make that translucent, this is a good tip for model makers, is, let's have a look at the materials. I make it in glass, so it's actually a glass hull, and what I will do is I will delete that material, and then I shall put the proper texture on the whole thing. In fact, what I'll do now is I'll show you. I'll just delete that material, and we're left with the raw image, and you can see there this is all made up of lots of different sections. Those will largely disappear when I add the final texture to it. So there we are, there's the Great Eastern. Like the original, maybe quite a few months before it's actually able to go to sea.